What do you do? Where do you come from? Who's Thembi?
Right. Thembi is a 100% South African product. I was born in Soweto back in 1966 in Meadowlands. And those who come from Meadowlands will know exactly, very vibey township in Soweto. And I fast track matric. I matriculated in a high school in Diepkloof called Madibani High School. A lot of friends and people I know actually matriculated there. And I went on to study communications at the University of Fort Hare in the Eastern Cape, a highly politicized environment. There was only university for us at the time to choose from, and to also get your political schooling. Left varsity, had a few jobs, and of course, all the wonderful big jobs I wanted with my BA degree, I couldn't get because I was not qualified enough. I was convinced with my BA that I actually have to tell you a very a small story, but it just shows how ambitious I was, and I didn't even realize the intensity of the ambition. When I left school with my BA degree, family in hand, I was convinced that I was the most educated person in South Africa, and therefore I only applied in the newspapers. At the time, all the jobs were in the Star newspaper. Remember, they classified in the Star. So I only applied for managing director, general manager jobs, and then and this was in the 80s. And so this one lady, this recruitment firm apparently, they called at home. You remember the phone was those phones stuck to the wall. So I rushed to go answer the phone, and this woman just went, is that, Thembi Kunene, And I said, yes, it's me. Okay, my name is, so-and-so, Natalia. I'm phoning you regarding this job. According to the CV we received here, you only have a BA in communication. And I said, yes, absolutely, that's me. So, and that woman she just put the phone down, she did not even explain. To this day, I talk about that incident because, I did not think of anything other than, right at the top for myself. And it's only after that incident that I realized, no, actually, I have to start at the bottom. Okay, so fine. So then reality set in, and life went back to normal. So that is the story of my life. But for me, the turning point, I think, in terms of my career was when I joined the airport company just before the elections, the very first democratic elections in this country, as a public relations officer. And the airport was still called Jan Smuts Airport at the time. So it was a very exciting part of my development and part of my career. And really, that was actually when I first got introduced to tourism, just the concept of tourism. Being at the airport, watching and being responsible for all this safe passage, because there's just a transition area to these wonderful groups of people, made lots of friends, connected internationally. It was a really, truly amazing time. And that's when the tourism bug bit me. And I haven't been outside of the tourism space since then.
Tell me a little bit about that tourism career. So you were at AXA, and then how did it evolve, and where did you land up?
Well, So from AXA, I think where it got entrenched in my mind was when I got promoted in 1997. I mean, it sounds so far away, but it feels like it was just yesterday. So in 1997, I got promoted to go and manage George Airport. And I literally was the first black person to be managing an airport. So there was a bit of an intense media, just curiosity. Who is this person that's just, come into the George community? George, Western Cape, Fancourt, smack bang in the middle of tourism country. The garden route for me was really the first love of a destination. And back in the day, the government had structured, remember the regional tourism organizations. So I got involved there, I got active. So really just selling that whole area, being involved there. And yes, I was part of the airport, but I was really part of the whole tourism community, and I absolutely loved it. And of course, Court was my go-to place for all the business meetings and the lunches and the teas. Any excuse I had to go to Court. So it was always great fun. And and then from there I came back to Johannesburg. No, actually, first I went to Durban. I got promoted by Airports Company still to go to the Durban airport. Same story there, very involved. And then I got an incredible opportunity, believe it or not, at the time, in the city of Johannesburg as one of the executives of its entities. That's when Joburg Water was formed, City Power was formed, and I got the Johannesburg Zoo. So I went in there and again, domestic tourism, local tourism, and but largely facilities management. So again, back to real operations and being in the conservation space, although it was urban conservation, yes, zoo, is a lot of debates one can have about that environment, but that also exposed me to a whole range of conservation related entities and personalities, and that's basically what I believe rounded my love for tourism and what we have to offer as this rich country.
So tell me a little bit about your views on the impact that tourism has on South Africa, on its communities, because I get a sense that tourism doesn't always get the seat at the table that other industries like mining, for example, gets. And it's possibly because it's not viewed as essential. It's people going on holiday, perhaps. So tell me about that importance.
Well, I think you have to look at our sector from the perspective of economic development. We are a sector that is very has a real big impact when it comes to SMMEs, especially skilled and semi-skilled opportunities for employment and for entrepreneurship for a lot of people. You're talking about at least 1.2 million jobs in the sector, and each of those jobs, imagine the indirect benefit that it has in the South African community. So for me, you have to look at the sector from that perspective. It has an opportunity for lots more people to be employed, and also not just employed and active in the community, but also helping to sell, because each and every one of those people is actually selling their whole country, not just diamonds or mining somewhere or a very focused and deep sector, but ours is so spread. It is the impact is felt countrywide. I can't even mention the rural areas. I mean, the whole Kruger belt alone right now is suffering because of almost 25,000 jobs in that area. So we're talking about a sector that has a real profound impact to even the least skilled people, so that they can have an opportunity. Now, if you look at it from that perspective, there's all the reason to actually support the sector. Over and above that, 7% of the employed people in that sector are women. And we all know South African women on the continent are the ones who bear the brunt of a lot of responsibilities and the pain of actually making South Africa work, making its people work, and making its children alive and healthy. It's all on the back of women. So if you want to have any impact in empowering women, you have to look at the tourism sector. I can't think of any other. Mining sector is a whole bunch of men and a few women there and there. But then, so what other industry has that amount of women employed in it? It has to be the tourism sector.
The other thing then also is to talk, as you've said, with the tourism's reach into lots of different parts of the economy, but tourism isn't just palm trees and pina coladas, and you experience that directly in your own work currently. Tell us a little bit about the other aspects of tourism that people don't normally think about.
Yeah, to just drive that point home that not a lot of people actually think about. I was in a Women in MICE, which is the Meetings, Incentives, Conferences and Events sector. It was a virtual conference hosted, and one of the government officials in that virtual conference actually admitted that we were not thinking about the event sector when we were sitting around the table representing the industry. And that was just when the religious sector was allowed up to 50 people. And said, but what about us in the MICE sector? I mean, we are in the eventing industry. We create jobs, we sustain jobs, and we stimulate the economy in what we do and what we offer as a service. How can a sector that is literally just not really job creating in per se, great for mindset and for peace of mind, for connection spiritually with the Almighty, whatever Almighty people worship, but does it create jobs in the here and now, not in the here in the life after, but in the here and now? So that was quite telling for me when that government official was saying, no, actually, they did not classify the MICE sector, and we're not even thinking about it. So if our own government officials that are meant to promote this sector, ensure that it is stimulated, ensure that it grows, the eventing and conferencing sector is not front and center to them. Yeah, that's a bit of a challenge, So I currently work as Chief Operations Officer for Tourvest IME, which is the MICE division of the Tourvest Group, the Tourvest Group, the South African company. And as such, the challenges have been real. When overnight your revenue stream literally just shuts off and you have all of these overheads in preparation of delivering a whole lot of conferences we had planned, and people were canceling. And even now, companies are still not skeptical. There's a lot of uncertainty to get on the plane, put the executives on the plane and go have a conference somewhere. So we're dealing with a hybrid environment when it comes to meetings and events, but majority of it right now is virtual. It's all virtual. And virtual means less revenue. It means you need less people, and therefore you have to really make sure you right-size your business as quickly as possible. And yes, it was brutal. It was excruciating and very, very difficult decisions to make. But at the end of the day, you only have so much capacity to carry the very few employees that you now need in these circumstances versus when we are full on operationally and hosting and implementing and executing all those events.
If you had a direct line to the ministers who sit at the NCCC level and the president, and you were advocating on behalf of your industry, what would you say to them?
Because our industry touches so many other industries, I would really plead. I think my request would be, Mr. President, please just act. Get rid of corruption in your structures, in the government structures. Just get rid of the people that are found to be corrupt or suspected to be corrupt, because that is what is eating at the soul of our nation on so many levels, not just tourism, on so many levels. I mean, I don't have to mention, we all have our own examples, loads and loads of examples we can quote, that because of corruption and because of incompetence, we cannot do X, Y, and Z. This industry would be the biggest employer, would be the largest generator of GDP and contribution to GDP, if it is just allowed to be run by competent, confident, and highly skilled individuals. That's all we need. Everybody else must just take a back seat and they must just the corrupt ones must be fired, the incompetent ones must be also let go, and let's work with people who actually understand the industry and move the industry forward. So my big message would be, Mr. President, it is within your power to take a decision and get rid of people who are corrupt, because they're corrupting the core of this nation and therefore the core of everything that we do, tourism being one of them.
So you mentioned a little bit earlier about the size of the workforce, the tourism workforce that comprises women, and it's Women's Month this month. Talk to me a little bit about the importance to women in South Africa of the tourism industry. Why does it deserve to be saved for the women in South Africa?
Sure, that's an interesting question. Very good question. Why does the tourism industry deserve to be saved for women? I think because the single biggest character of women is we are nurturing by nature. There's only very few people that I know, very few women I know that will see a baby and not go coochie coochie coochie, you know. So it is an instinctive thing. So for us, when we have visitors, we are more welcoming, we are more nurturing, we make sure that everything goes absolutely according to their expectations. Then we make sure that people are happy, they're well cared for, and they're well taken care of. You cannot ask for better hosts than women, in my view. So therefore, again, the industry needs a whole lot of people to be like that and have those characteristics of really being nurturing hosts, so that we can grow this industry, we can increase confidence in our tourism experiences, make sure they are memorable, and it just comes naturally for women more than it does for men. So therefore, if anything, save the industry for that.
How do you see the industry in a time of COVID and beyond? What do we need to do? What do we need to be in the industry to do right by our women in the industry? How do we need to change things?
You know, firstly, luckily the industry is already majority majority people who work in the industry are women already. So how we need to change, I think, over and above, firstly would be women. Let's give each other a chance and let's give each other a break. You know, there's not, sometimes, as you know, there's nothing worse than women fighting amongst themselves. You know, because we are that passionate. You know, like, so when we fight, we really fight. You know, so let's give each other a break. Let's give each other space to breathe, and let's give each other a chance. You know, and I think for me that is the important one. And let's be kind to one another, kinder under these circumstances. Let's be kinder to one another. We are all stressing. We all need a pat on the back at this time. We all need to be told and encouraged that things will be better, and we hope and pray that they will be better, God willing. But secondly, for me, the skill sector in tourism, we really need to improve the level of skills and exposure. And here I really mean, I've seen environments where there's absolutely a limited number of women and maybe of a particular color that can only do this particular service. Doesn't have to be that way. Let us, you know, the cake is big enough for all of us. Let us make sure that we are all sitting around the table and having and partaking in this opportunity. So for me, skills development is very, very key, and being kind to one another as women and helping each other and nurturing each other is also a second one.
My final question to you is, and it's a tough one because I don't know how I would answer it myself. What
Yes.
You've been through, we've all been through so much in the last 4 months, and we have a long runway ahead, all of us. We still have a lot that we need to get through. What words of encouragement and inspiration would you like to share with other women in tourism at the moment who are perhaps feeling today that there aren't options, that the road ahead just is too long and too difficult? What could you say to keep us all on the road marching together?
Sure. Yeah, that's a difficult one, I'll be honest with you. uh, I must be honest, the first thing that comes to mind is that I need those words to me. That's the first thing. Because we are all, just because you're interviewing me doesn't mean I have all the answers and I know it all, and no, I don't. We all have a lot to learn, and we can only learn by engaging with each other. So the only thing that I can say to try and encourage, simply because that's where I am right now, myself, psychologically, remember why you chose this sector in the first place. I chose it for the incredible people that I've met, the wonderful relationships that I've formed, and the incredibly satisfying feeling and and real fulfillment in seeing people enjoy my culture, enjoy the hospitality that we deliver, whether it's an event or a meeting or a bus parade or an award ceremony or just a couple going to a game lodge for their honeymoon. That that feeling of uh, uh, um, satisfaction and having done something right, having sold our country and our tourism experiences in a manner that makes people so grateful. They write back. Just remember those moments. Try and draw back, because that's the reason why we're in this sector. I know right now it is extremely difficult, and I don't have an answer regarding potential earning revenue, because even government, in fact, for us this morning we received word that our April TERS benefits have just been paid. I mean, April, it is now August. So we have relief, but yeah, it's been extremely difficult. Other than asking people to really draw back and look back into the reason why they're in the sector. And don't lose that, because we're going to need that even more when, and not if, when we come through this COVID nightmare. I think for us, we're going to need that passion, that commitment even more if we want to grow this sector again.